Man. Look, this is not a video I wanted to make. For those of you who don't know, all of the modern Persona trilogy has been ported to modern platforms in some form or another. The ports of Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal have had little to no issues that I know of. This is great, but unfortunately I can't say the same thing for the Persona 3 Portable port. If you've been following the news about this port, then you would know that it has some major issues when compared to the original PSP release. This is a problem because a re-release of a game from 2009 on the PSP should not have to be talked about as if it is a trade-off compared to the original. It should have came out and completely replaced the PSP version, especially since the PSP store has been shut down for well over a year, and the only other official way to play it is on something that I'm not even sure exists. Now, despite what people are saying on platforms like Twitter, I do think that there is an argument that this is the definitive version of Portable specifically. But is it just that? An argument? Or is it truly the definitive version of the game? To find out, let's get into... Believe it or not, there are actually some direct upgrades with zero downsides, the major one being the customizable difficulty options. You now have much more control over the difficulty for your experience than you did in the PSP version. For example, let's say you wanted to play Maniac Mode to get the greatest challenge out of the bosses, but you don't like grinding in Tartarus. Well, now you can by adjusting the EXP multiplier. Obviously, this isn't perfect and makes the game more susceptible to cheese, but that's fine for some players. You can also make it so that when you die in Tartarus, instead of going back to your last save, you get booted back to the beginning of the floor. These two changes alone really let you customize the experience to your liking, which is greatly appreciated. Another direct upgrade is the FPS cap increase. In the PSP version, the game is locked at 30 FPS, but on Switch and PS4, it can go up to 60 FPS, and on PC and the two new Xboxes, it can go up to 120 FPS. This isn't the biggest deal in the world, but it does make the game look and feel a lot smoother. There are also a few graphical updates to note. All of the 3D models look much better than they do in the PSP release. This includes the 3D models used in Tartarus, the ones in the cutscenes, and the 3D models of all the Personas. Some of the HUD elements look better too. These include the character portraits for the visual novel scenes, the battle portraits, the drawings of the Personas, and the text boxes.
Had a fade here, you stupid bitch.
With these upgrades in mind, how could this version not be the best Persona 3 Portable experience? While it is true that the gameplay is an upgrade in every regard and some parts of the game do look better, I do feel like there are plenty of negatives to discuss, and with that, let's get into... There are quite a few downsides to go over when compared to the original PSP release of this game. The most popular punching bag right now is definitely the overall visuals of the game. Now, I know earlier I said that there are a lot of visual upgrades in this port, but I would say most of the visual changes are for the worse. All of the backgrounds in this version are AI upscaled in some way, some of which make it look a lot more obvious than others. The severity of this depends on the background, but when it looks bad, it looks really bad. The worst examples for me are the calendar in the protagonist's room, and something that is truly the greatest crime ever committed.
What? It's just an ordinary crabby... Oh my goodness!
What did they do to him? What did they do to our boy? Also, some clearly AI upscaled elements in the HUD. I'm not going to go over them all, but I'm going to talk about the most obvious one that everyone's already seen. But why does the fire look like Ozziak? Now, all those are pretty bad, but if those were the only issues with this port, I would have no problem saying this is the definitive Persona 3 Portable experience. But unfortunately, that isn't the case, as there are some major audio issues with this version too. Fortunately, I'm not talking about the music or the voice acting in the visual novel scenes. I'm talking about the audio issues in the 3D cutscenes and some of the sound effects in the battles in HUD. Before you ask, it's not like these sounds were left over from the PSP release. If this was the case, I wouldn't really have much of an issue with it since the PSP version generally sounds fine. The strange thing is that this version has different sounds than the PSP version, and they sound worse. To show you what I mean, here are a few comparisons. I honestly have no idea how you can mess this up, but there is a mod for the PC version that fixes at least the battle and HUD sound effects. If you're on any other platform though, then you're out of luck. This is a big deal because for me and a lot of other people, sound design is king. I'm not gonna lie and say it's unplayable, but it is very noticeable. There's also some stuff that definitely should have been changed, like removing the Ken romance and the FemC route. I also think some things are meant to be left alone. There was a change that is a great tragedy for this community. A change that should have absolutely been left alone. A change that Atlus had no business doing. Changing the P3 MC's canon name from Roger to Makoto Yuki. Truly a travesty of our generation. Jokes aside, let's get into... Like I said before, I really wish this video wasn't needed. This port should have been an upgrade in every regard, but unfortunately, that isn't the world we live in. It was confirmed that Atlus is going to go back and change some of the issues in this port, like the audio issues I mentioned earlier. This is great, and I'm willing to take them at their word, because usually when they say they're going to go back and change stuff, they do it. In the state that the port is now, though, I still don't feel like this is a lazy port. They put some attention to detail into this port that they really didn't have to do, like recreating the PSP save menu and changing some voice clips that no one really noticed. I just wish they focused their efforts on making the port look and sound as good as possible rather than these small details. As of now, I think that this release of Persona 3 Portable is a trade-off when compared to the original. When Atlus implements the audio updates which will make the game sound better, I will have no problem saying this is the definitive Persona 3 Portable experience, but for now, I would wait to buy it until that happens. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I wasn't actually planning for this to be my first video, as it was made kinda spontaneously, but here we are. I was actually planning to make a review on the Persona 3 movie since they just got another physical release. Since I was already in the planning phase of that video, I think that'll probably be the next video that comes out. If you guys are interested in that, you should stick around, and if there's any real lesson to learn from this video, play Fess.